Prof, I know my colleagues spoke about what happened in time past in terms of the kind of education people had when they voted, how they went out to vote at the time. But if you could look at it in the context of ideology from not just political parties now, but the electorate, the kind of knowledge and information they had, wherein when they voted, they knew it was going to affect them for the next election cycle up until that period. Do you think that the knowledge has either increased? Are we voting with better information? Do we have results to show for that?
Chamberlain, I think you got your finger on the issue. Nigerian political parties, I've said on this program, this station, are synthetic. They are plastic. They are not organic. They are not like parties you have in other places that wind on ideology. Left-leaning parties, centrist parties, and right-wing parties. So that gives the people a semblance of choice. But here, the focus seems more on personalities rather than parties. The law says it's parties that's filling candidates. But the reality of the situation is that the person matters in Nigeria, who you are. What is the perception that people have of you? Whether you are a decent, moral human being, do you have the interests of the people at heart, or you are self-seeking or self-centered? So I think it's a price we have to pay for political underdevelopment. In terms of the political behavior of our people, the fault lines of Nigeria bubble to the surface, even in the campaigns. Where you come from, what is your religious persuasion? Nobody is really focusing on policies. There are a few instances where maybe Freudian slip had occurred among some candidates, bordering on ideology, so which will put people on notice that such candidates might pose problems for their interests. But if there is no slip of tongue among the candidates, then people look at you from the standpoint of where you are coming from. What's your ethnic identity, rather than your ideological orientation. Now, when I was growing up, Chief Awolowo, who, you know, was a consummate politician, someone, I think it was Harold Wilson, who said he could have been prime minister of any country, okay? He had his own social democrat, or shall I say, welfareist predilection. He wanted the masses to be enlivened in terms of their consciousness. I remarked a few days ago that his posters were Awo, a man with a plan, that he had a plan to transform this country. Another poster of his said, freedom for all, life more abundant. So the action group had such attitudes. The NCNC, you know, Zik was a Fabian socialist of sorts. So you can't really say the NCNC had an ideology of social ownership of factors of production, but they just wanted liberation of the country. That's Zik. Now, the MPN had, or MPC, had a different attitude. It was a party just for Northerners. The Northern interest superseded or transcended any other interest. If the parties had been left alone, if there was no military incursion, my hunch is that they might have matured into ideological parties. And the attempt by Ibrahim Babangida to first create a party to the left, a party to the right, sort of political alchemy it was not all that successful because it was artificial. But when you have parties that are grounded in ideological positions, left of center, center of center, right of center, then you have people having no choice. But what we've seen in Nigeria, especially in the recent past, is what I called in my Ganifa Emi lectures this year, a choice between Tweedledee and Tweedledum. You know, like Charles Dickens was talking about England. Okay, 6 1/2 dozen. You really...
no different.
It's really no choice. Hobson's choice. So I agree with you entirely that Nigeria has to progress and become more ideological so that parties should tell us where they want to take us to. What is their vision for Nigeria?
Exactly.
And that vision will lead to the mission that they want to pursue. It's not clear now, except, as I said, for happenstance, when one or two of the candidates, I think inadvertently, made statements on what the party was going to do, ideologically speaking.
Okay, Mr. Vincent, I see you nodding away.
Yeah, no, I can't agree more. Prof, my teacher. It's a privilege to be seated here with him. We know him as a man very brilliant of intellect. You know, I agree totally, because the other day I was just taking a review at all the promises, as it were. And it's been like, I'll build the road, I'll do a road, I'll do education, and I'm asking, what exactly do we have in terms of substance that we can say is an ideological platform for these parties? No. We don't have it. We don't. That's why probably you find people are more geared towards what they get from the parties. You find somebody packaging rice, packaging detergent, and, you know, to give people at election time, and people flock towards it, because really there's nothing more than the superficialities.
Those infrastructures. To get vision without, to harness policies or, you know, functional programs without a vision? Is it possible?
It's not possible, and that's where we lack that depth that probably is making us to be like we're retrogressing. But I still see in it somewhat progression in terms of that. Okay, we're not where we used to be, but there could have been quantum leap. There could have been better things. Just that, for instance, there's no education really. There's just a lot of noise, a lot of news out there, but we don't have the education. People are not even asking the parties, okay, give us exactly what your vision is beyond just the promises of road, of this, of that.
Yeah. All right, let's bring in our panel in Abuja. We also do have them there. We've got Idayat Hassan, who is the Director, Center for Democracy and Development, and sitting beside her is Dr. Hassani Abdul, a political scientist. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for joining us today on the program. Let me start with you, Idayat Hassan. What is going through your mind at the moment, the eve of the big day tomorrow?
Okay, basically it's the excitement that finally we are at the appointed date. And I think what is so fascinating about these elections is the fact that we don't even know who will emerge the winner. We have little or no idea. Yeah, there are projections left, right, and center, but even as experts, we can't say with certainty who will emerge the winner.
Let me ask Dr. Hassan, he's a political scientist. I'm just wondering, because I hear people say, look, Nigerian politics, you can't even teach it in politics 101, because what you see in the field, completely different from what happens in the classroom. So, any similarities?
Well, there are surely similarities. I don't think that the classroom is totally different from the larger society. Otherwise, it's not a proper classroom. The classroom should resonate and reflect critically the society. So there are strong similarity. It shows the nature of our politics, the contentious character that we have, the whole issues around the divisiveness of our society, the failure of leadership that we have experienced historically. All these are actually reflecting the level of our literacy and illiteracy in the country, is shaping the character of even the elections, as it were. But the reality is also that a lot of people are excited about this day. But we know, and every moment, and since 1999, these periods are always very tense period, and sometimes it ends up being an anticlimax, and other times we have very strong and tight race. So we look forward to what happens tomorrow.
In consideration of the build-up and the preparations for the elections, do you think that is this excitement, laced with the fact that they think or they know that their votes will count, and as such they're excited about going out there?
Not necessarily, and because again, the voting population need to be properly disaggregated sometimes to know where the excitement comes from. For some, the electioneering actually electrifies the entire society, or the campaign carnivals, or the posters that young people are sharing around, or the movement, the travels from one place to the other, running campaigns and all that, can be very exciting. And then the ultimate process of actually going to cast vote can be some actually have people that they are related with, somebody from their community, that helps in electrifying everything, and people are there. And so for those people, the main issue is about going to vote, and therefore they leave the decision on how the voting process is managed to the people who are responsible for it. For others, particularly those who are actively in politics, those who are in political parties, there is more level of apprehension than actually excitement. The apprehension is more about, am I going to win? Is my party going to win? Is it not going to win? What do I need to do? And sometimes apprehensions can resort to desperation, where people try to do other things, so many other things, to be able to outsmart the other person and ensure victory.